Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. I have so much to share with you today as part of this, what I would always consider a co-creation. Let's just talk about this co-creation for a moment. What are we really talking? It's a podcast, right? Well, as you know, you can feel when you're feeling energetically pulled into a conversation, a direction, an intention, something like that. And we're becoming more and more astute to that. What really determines the outcome of our life is how are we showing up in that moment? Because you feel the energy, but at what level are you responding to it? What in that moment is even your capacity to respond to it? And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. So we are coming to the end of the year. 2025 has been a challenging year for a lot of people, myself included. It seems like if you look at all the astrology out there, that's what it was supposed to be. So, okay, I'm rolling with it. And then 2026 being the year of the horse and just complete opening, new beginning, all of that. What does that look like for us? I would say the thing that we don't want to do is set our goals and do everything like we did last year. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk to you guys about. Another thing is, who are we now? And is that a function of who we want to be? Or is that just a function of who am I right now? And is that different? Why is that different? I think that we are transcending language in so many ways, and we are living into more of the frequency of us. We also are really elevating our consciousness and just the rate of acceleration based on these small support systems and groups that we have around us. Maybe they've always been there and we just haven't seen them. I know in my life, I have incredible support and magic around me. And at the same time, I have a lot of loss going on right now as well. And my job in this is to not determine which side of the polarity I want to be in, because we all know what the answer to that would be. It is to find equanimity in the polarity in itself. Like, is it really two systems? Or is it the path? And is it our human conditioning and belief system that even makes it pull apart into two different ways? The equanimity brings it into one, and when it brings it into one, it can't help but escape much of the entanglement. When I'm in something and I feel like I'm being pulled down the river, I now have choices on, do I want to grab a branch or do I want to keep floating in it? And if I want to keep floating in it, then what is the cost in this? Is there a cost? Maybe there's not. What I want to share with you today is just some things that I think are going to set the stage for you coming up. I think 2026 is a big year for everyone. I think we've been feeling that. And I know for me, I feel like even the next 5 months is going to be pivotal. And I have some things planned and I have it planned in a certain way the next few months. Mainly when I say planning, it is I just simply open up space. And so what I've been doing for the last month is cleaning up the energy in my life, looking at where I want my energy to go and choosing that. And if it's going to an area that is life draining, then that area has to be let go. And it has nothing to do with whether I want to let that go or not. It's just not going to get me where I want to go. And I think that us being real with that is kind of, I think that's step one. So we talk a lot about this, this concept of attachments. And I think, if we really break apart the word attachment, because this creates a lot of money stuff for us as well, then we can see that there is a feeling of time attached to the word attachment, because most of us feel like an attachment is something that we gathered along the way. And while that is true to a certain degree, and there's multiple truths, it's really just which truth are you pulling down, because we live in parallel realities. What is also true is that there is no attachment other than the attachment that you are recreating in the moment. And so being in the knowing that, oh, I'm feeling this attachment because I've created it again right now, then I have the jurisdiction to drop that illusion, to kind of blow it apart. And so if we did this with our money, then we would start to see that many of the things that we feel are attachments, which also, that's need is a derivative of an attachment, then we would see that the money needs that we have aren't really a need in terms of it's missing. A need is something that you have created based on an attachment that you have with continuing to exist and live in a certain way. Now, when we go into our dreams and visions and we think, okay, I can feel money coming, right? And a lot of people kind of sit in that space, and it's a really good, feel good space. But money neutrality and feeling good are not the same thing. Money neutrality is the space of opening for money, and feeling good is that, well, we know what that is. That's a feeling. So a lot of people are and have been in this state of money, what they call money flow. But it's really just, hey, I bought this pair of shoes. It feels so abundant. I feel so good. I paid off more on my credit card. I have new clients that I know are coming in. If you think about that, though, that's still, it's just a feeling until you see it. So what I'm pointing to here is that for you in 2026, I invite you to see that the flow of money being a feeling is kind of that's like your baby step. The flow of money is actually the feeling and the witnessing of it coming in. And you witness it not from a place of really seeing it from the 3D. The moment you see it in 3D, you have no choice but to compare it and to judge it and to count it. And that's okay if you do that on a momentary basis. Let's say you want to bifurcate your energy. That's okay if you do that with 20% of your energy. But 80% of your energy is seeing it as abundance, period, end of story. I was just in a call in the group, and I'm going through this journey of like vulnerability. And I'm practicing vulnerability with some people who are really close to in my life right now. And what happens is you practice it, and whatever you practice, you become that, and then you expand into it. So now here I am. I see myself being asked these very pointed questions in our group. And one of the things that came up is my marriage and the divorce and how the chips all fell with that. As it ended up, my wife and I, now my ex-wife, were able to together figure out a way that we were both cared for because there was enough money there, but she was more cared for in terms of not needing to work, because that is what I took on in my marriage, is that I wanted to provide for and protect her. And that, of course, includes protecting myself. And that commitment doesn't change just because you're outside of the marriage. A commitment is based on love. And so, because of my practice with money neutrality, and now I am not a martyr, by the way, um, I happen to have money neutrality, which allows me to do things like that. But I was still emotional, and I was still entangled, and I was still pissed off during that time. And I didn't always agree with what she wanted to do, and vice versa. So I'm also here to not paint a rosy picture, because you don't need a rosy picture. What you need is real life. What you want is the experience of real life. Like, if you weren't like me, and that you ended up like you wanting to be like in this world, like leave this world in a rough and tumble. I've done everything possible. I've been on every adventure in the world. I've climbed every mountain. I have been in service to the nth degree. That's how I want to leave the world. That's how you want to leave the world too. Guess what? People like that, they actually have to go out and live life. And living life is the polarity. And the way that you navigate and live life isn't to dampen the polarity and look for more calmness, is to find equanimity and calmness within the polarity, because that's what you've chosen. And to be in what is with what you've chosen, you don't change the environment around you, you change who you are. So build within, expand out, right? And so me sharing this with you about these attachments and thinking. When I was going through the polarity of my divorce, being able to stay true to the vision that abundance, which is all forms, abundance is what we choose, sometimes money. Abundance in this case for me was money, but also, more so, I'll say, it was having a relationship with my ex-wife. I knew, even during the trenches I was in, that that was going to be priceless. Having spent 16 years with someone and them being in my world as someone who knows me at that level and will always love and support me is far, far greater than money. And you know how I was able to do that is um, in money neutrality, you don't rely just on your own singular potential. In money neutrality, it is equivalent to one consciousness with regard to money, and you don't feel the weight of the world on you. And so, yes, I did go with, okay, I have the potential here. And let me just make sure that all this over here for her is tidied up. I'm not just looking at me. Like, I don't do this singularly. And I don't want to create the illusion that I do, because I want you to see that you don't need to take the world on your shoulders either. Oh my God, the support system that I have. What I do have going for me, that it's interesting, because I met with a channel yesterday, a psychic, and this comes up for me over and over. It's been coming up, the same thing, since 2012, and it came up again yesterday. I had this 90-minute, very intense session, which I'm sure things that I'll be sharing with you will come out from that. But it was huge in terms of like aspects that I don't believe I was quite ready to see, but I was ready to see in the moment. But one of the things that came up is capacity. And so I do have a giant capacity, and a lot of you do too. And if you don't have a giant capacity, it's not because any of us are any different. It's because it's a state of allowing, it's an access point. So I think that it's time that we move on from the conversation of powerful, because everybody has the same power. We're all brought here with the same exact ability to be powerful. We have access to our own power through our capacity. And this is a very important conversation, which is why I'm bringing it up now, because your capacity is interrelated to your goals, which being at the end of 2026, you're about to go out there and set goals. That's what we do. In my opinion, the most important thing that you can do with setting your goals is to set goals without resistance. Because an unsustainable goal is no good. I don't care how diligently you go after it in the first quarter of 2026. And it's no fun. And the biggest cost of it is the exhaustion that comes from it. That is what is limiting our capacity, is because we feel exhausted. But the thing is, we feel exhausted because we're still focused on the exhaustion we feel simply in the 3D. And it doesn't even make sense to us logically in the moment, because we know we've all been through, oh, that's funny, I slept last night. Oh, I am feeling better about that. Oh, more money did come in. Well, why am I still feeling exhausted? Like, none of it lines up, yet we still are looking for evidence in the 3D to believe that we can just do all these things and to manage our energy. Yes, that is true. That is a truth. But that's almost like the smaller truth now. The level that you're playing at, your standards are so high now that you managing your physical body energy is just a given. That's a non-negotiable, and you'll continue to move more into that. Remember that that's always changing too, because you're always changing. The next level of eliminating your exhaustion, which is the same thing as managing your energy, is to see and realize that we do not quantify yet the energetic output of what we are doing internally and then expressing out into the world. An example would be the channeling session yesterday. That was a lot of energy that moved through me from this channel. I was so strung out last night emotionally. All the loss that I am feeling in my life, the volume got turned up on that. And what do? I look for the equanimity, and then I lean on my support system, because I am not meant to be here to do all these things alone, and neither are you. And what I've learned through my support system, because they're training me as well by showing me, is that in order to be independent, we have to first be dependent. Because you know what happens when we're dependent? We become vulnerable. And vulnerability is a portal opening for myself, I know, and maybe for you. I've talked a little bit about this in the group, and oh my God, the chat just flies when I mention this, because so many people are feeling this level of the world's asking you to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is a connection point, a deep connection point that brings in any type of abundance that you choose. And so if you want to be more of you, then be more of you. This whole rhetoric out there that you see on social about, people being authentic, well, that's fine, but I would say most of it is still your ego. Like, you're being authentic just because you told me that, you don't want to do something anymore, or you don't want to go there, or you don't want to do this. Like, there's still an element of your ego there. And we're not trying to get rid of our ego. We're trying to see the ego. And so it's really hard for the ego to show up when you're vulnerable. And on the other side of vulnerability, what inevitably happens is you meet the new version of yourself. How do you know that you're meeting the new version of yourself? Because the old version is there and is screaming about, you shouldn't have said that, you shouldn't have gone there, you want to take it back. The old version is feeling so unsafe that it is the presentation of the old version that shows that the new version is there, because who is observing the old version? Source, you. That's the whole deal here. That's the whole game, is that you're not the thinker of your thoughts. You're the observer. When you realize that in that moment, you're not in the polarity, the bad side of it, as you say, you're actually the new version of you witnessing it, then the illusion is dropped and it either goes away or a level of equanimity comes in. Once that happens, you can no longer operate on the illusion and you become the new version. You become that new version that's actually still safe and alive and walking and free, even though they told the vulnerable story. And so with me, I have such a safety around me that I'm able to go vulnerable more so than I would. And this safety, by the way, it looks like many different types of relationships. Even a coach. It also resides within me, because when I am feeling in the trenches and I'm on my own, a lot of times what I'll do is not reach out to anyone, because then that is me choosing me. I'm going to get through this on my own. I'm going to use my tools to do this. And I have many practices that I share and I teach inside of the mastermind, especially. Speaking of the mastermind, we're going to go deep on this 2026 in terms of you being the self-expression of your goal rather than your goals being something outside of you that you have to do. Because I promise you that when you stop feeling exhausted and you feel space in your life, everything is going to start to come in because it has room. And you don't have to even really talk about your goals anymore. You just are that. And it's like your magnetism. What happens is your magnetism broadens. We're opening enrollment for the mastermind. We're going to open enrollment briefly in December. And we're going to do some spots at the 2025 price before the price goes up in January. So the key is, and we'll put a link here in the show notes, or you can just go to thespiritualinvestor.com and click on mastermind. The key is get your application in so that we can start looking at that and dreaming and planning into that with you if that's something that works for you. And you'll be able to jump on a call with some of the team, or sometimes we talk to you via email. Depends on what works for you, really. But the mastermind is always overfull. This last time was our biggest one ever, and they carry their own magic. Each of them do. And so here's something that I would do. I would definitely do it if you join the mastermind, but you could even do this on your own. This is really just offering, like, okay, let's vision into this, not just from a conceptual place, but numbers. A lot of you feel like it's too late, you're behind, you don't have enough money, which, by the way, you don't need a certain amount of money to invest to be able to start investing. You need to have the desire to be that version of you who invests as a non-negotiable and just says, hey, I'm tired of just relying on all earned income. I want to expand money. But let's just say that you went into the mastermind and you said, okay, I'm going to make it my goal that I'm going to increase my income by $25,000. Now that's really, I mean, you could say it's a lot or it's not a lot. Really, you're kind of working against yourself, whichever you say. And it's always going to match to your knowing and your knowingness and belief. So you might as well just say 25,000. That's ones and zeros. If you were to increase your income by 25,000 and you were also to make a commitment that from then on to eternity, you were going to invest $1,000 a month. So you have a 25K now or whenever you have it, and you're $1,000 a month. Then growing at 11% a year, which if you are diversified and into multiple different asset categories over time, that historically has been more than sustainable. And you were to have that going for 25 years, you would have $1.9 million. So when you look at that, like 25,000, that's not an astronomical amount we're talking about. $1,000 a month, once you get accustomed to that and that becomes your normal, is that really a big deal? Like when you start to look at this, is that really even outside of you? Yet, if someone told you, hey, you need to have $2 million by X date, that might feel heavier to you. But see, the thing is, there's no time. So the 25,000 with your commitment of $1,000 a month is already equal to $1.9 million if you choose it in your belief system. And if you choose it in your belief system, it becomes part of who you are and it becomes effortless and you don't have to think about it anymore. Imagine if you did that 25 times with all of your different things that you want and all of your goals to the point that they become an effortless self-expression of you, all being built on your belief system. And if your belief system doesn't support it, then what you do is you shine a light on that. You look at where's the shadow in there. This is something that can be so powerful for you, and also it's something that brings you back to the moment. Because when you come back to the moment with that goal that you have, all you need to do is do the one thing right now in the moment that is going to get you incrementally closer to it. Part of your goals this year is going to be to get in line with the choices that you've already made. A lot of people think, okay, you go out and increase your income. That feels all great. But then you have a need because you have to pay a certain amount of bills. And then that feels like icky and that feels like a need. Well, it's not actually a need if you really, really look at it. You needing to pay, let's say your cost of living is $4,000 a month. You needing to pay $4,000 a month. It's simply a result of the choices that you've made. And if it's a choice that you've made, then it's just as easily a choice that you make differently. And so when you see that you're creating the need, then the need as itself, as this own entity which is out of your control, goes away. When that goes away, you are no longer attached to the story that you don't have that. Because when you see that it's your choice, because the thing is, you kind of know what your cost of living is. And so if you've had it 2 months in a row, like after the first month of you being like, oh, well, this doesn't feel great. I'm not really making that much more than I need for my cost of living. Then the second time, you have to look at that as you already knew that. That's recycled information. And so much of this is leaning into just what is based on your choices and not having any judgment about that. Because then if you do, you go into the polarity. So I think that that's really important. And I think if I were looking at what is your most accelerated route, it would be to see that the work isn't the goal. The work is increasing your capacity in 2026. And the goal becomes an effortless self expression of what comes through that. That is actually how you pull energy down from the universal world and then you put it into the 3D. So I'm hoping that this can orient you in a way that you get to be different in 2026 because you already are different. And that you don't need to learn anything new. You actually need to let go of more of the things that aren't working and to really start seeing that the work is in clearing the space and eliminating the exhaustion. Because you already are the self expression of your why. It's just we don't know that about you because mostly you're going to come in the room and just front up with what your story is. I mean, most people, and I see this over and over, it's fine, but they come into the groups of the spiritual investor and they want to talk about why that they don't have money or that they do have money and that they're afraid to invest it or whatever. They want to talk about their conditioning and their trauma and all of this stuff. That's all great. But the new version of you doesn't have all that. So what if you just experimented? And this is funny because like in this round of the mastermind, I basically told them, I don't want to know your story. I mean, I do. The human me wants to know it, but the part of me that's here to guide and to help you doesn't need to know your story. And they started day 1 and they showed up as the new version. And holy shit, where they were in 3 weeks. We're on week 5 now. Being curious and experimenting, I think, is going to be such a huge, huge part of 2026. And it's not slowing down so you can speed up. I think that's kind of like one of those cliches. I don't think it's slowing down at all. Stillness is not slowing down. Stillness has nothing to do with time. Stillness is a function of seeing, and stillness is silence within. Silence is on the outside. Stillness is within, and it is a function of you being able to see. And if you do that, do you really need a to-do list of goals? No. Because when you keep moving towards money neutrality and you keep moving towards vulnerability and you keep leaning on your trust, on your support system, what happens is you begin to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you don't need all the answers ahead of time. And you don't need to put boundaries and ways of, like barricades around things. All that stuff takes energy. All of that stuff is exhausting. So we have a goal workshop coming up inside of SI Advanced. That's our middle tier group. It's around $200 a month. We have 2 workshops coming up in December, which are going to completely set you up for 2026. One of them is about investing and expanding money, and the other is about setting goals and not being in resistance. So that's available to you. Also, if you want to give a great gift to yourself, enroll in the Spiritual Investor Mastermind. It starts on February 3rd, so it gives you a good amount of time to get through the holidays and to come down, get everything dialed down, create your space, and then really, really start 2026 with a strong guidance system, which is effectively leading you back to you. So, all right. Thank you for sharing this and co-creating this with me. I'll see you on the next episode.